Next up is Krish.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for taking time to attend this session. What I'm going to share here is a real estate, especially on focused on the residential side of the Agentic AI. This is based on my personal story. So I was trying to buy a home back after COVID, and I faced a lot of issues. Lack of resources. Attorneys were like totally, I would say, overwhelmed because of the low interest rate. So everybody was in a buying mode, crazy mode. So I was facing terrible problem in terms of understanding like, okay, what are these contracts? This is in my favor, or how do I make a decision? So the basic core problem is obviously the lawyers are overwhelmed, especially during the peak real estate season, like starting spring through fall, and they're getting bombarded with so many contracts, reports, and all that stuff. So what I've seen is potentially they ignore some red flags, and that can cost you a lot of money down the lane, especially like after the purchase, you got to go and fix so many things. So the opportunity here is to identify those long processes, to streamline some of those backlogs in the attorney office, and enable a faster decisioning, right? So the hypothesis is if I able to reduce their time, they have more time to actually look at the gaps and eventually provide some quality decisions. So with the processing and the decisioning. So the opportunity here is to kind of create a marketplace for the clients, especially the buyers, the realtors, and the lawyers. So what are the key things that we want to solve? What is the core pain point? Do I understand this contracts well? The core terms, the key terms, what are the risk factors? So as long as I understand those things, can I enable a faster automation in terms of end to end? As soon as I get the contract, does the lawyer has an initial insights into those things? So this will help move the needle pretty fast. And today the solution is manual. Like, there are a lot of, I would say, solutions to create the contracts or reports, but very less to process them. So it's a very manual process. Let's focus on the success metrics here. So the idea, what the user is getting is an integrated marketplace, whether it is a client, whether it is a realtor or a lawyer, focuses on the faster turnaround time. And I want to make it this like a seamless integration with the existing solutions that, whatever the law firm has today. What we want to target is some very low hanging fruit, like, maybe a limited scope, like, okay, let me just process contracts alone. And then, slowly scale up to the rest of the contracts, documents, and maybe within a town or maybe within certain counties, right? So we want to go with that approach and then expand to broader markets. So what are the key strategy here? So phase one, accuracy is very key here. So obviously we want to target certain benchmarks based on what I've listed here. So I'm kind of using like an initial phase, then there is an intermediate phase, and then your final phase. As you start learning things, as you start incorporating some of those feedback mechanism coming from the attorneys, slowly you can scale your accuracy and also kind of bring the cost down. So the next piece which I want to concentrate is on the evals, right? So I ran the eval especially on two models. One is a 4.0 mini and then 3.5 turbo. So I looked at these parameters like the token, latency, accuracy, cost, the task completion, how helpful is the model, how honest and how harmless. So these are the stats. So I tested with like three kinds of documents here. One is your contracts, the initial contract that you sign up. Then is your inspection report, which is very critical. And then last critical test is your read on test. I don't know if everyone does this, but at least my township, they forced to do these kind of tests at minimum. So I have the stats here. What I've seen is a huge improvement in terms of between two OpenAI models. And the next piece, and obviously the 3.5 turbo model here, uh, definitely the contracts did not go through. It hit the rate limit. I tried a lot of tweaks. It didn't go through at all. So literally, and the inspection report went through and the radon report. But I was disappointed to see the accuracy piece and all the other elements associated with it. So this tells me that I think you got to always position at least to the latest or one version below to get a decent output, and always test with different models on a lot of those parameters. So that's pretty much what I did. Um, There's a long-term plan here, but I want to quickly share what we kind of, at least I kind of went through initial phase. Let me walk you through the framework here, right? Okay, all right. So now you should be able to see the model, how it was built. Okay, so this was built using innate N, the workflow. I tried a lot of options like Power Automate and a couple of others, but every time I hit some kind of a bottleneck, either with credentials or other pieces, and this was a little bit complex for me. So after a lot of experimentation, I kind of settled on this innate uh, N model. There is a Gmail trigger here, and that looks for emails into the inbox. It kind of keeps polling for any latest emails. It looks for any attachments. Once the attachment is there, it's going to separate those attachments and the message. And then there is an initial extraction happening here to see if what kind of document it is. So the idea here is I try to exactly mimic what I've outlined in my PRD, the steps, the components. So you don't need to extract all the documents here, right? Like the entire text. All I need is like first 2 pages. That's it. So then that will tell me what is the documents. And then I'm using here OpenAI. And then within the prompt here, if I can show you the prompt. So this is a prompt which will tell me exactly what are you and what is the expected output from this prompt, and it throws me an output here based on the prompt. So from the prompt, I'm going back and evaluating like what kind of document it is, and it goes through here a component which will route the document based on the type. So if it is a contract, it takes this workflow. If it is an inspection, it goes through, and if it is either read-on or other things, it goes through this workflow. So the challenge I faced here was the interpreting the PDF to text. I I don't know how many tools I experimented. Finally, I settled on Mistral OCR. It seems to get the job done decent. I would say probably 80%. I'm still not convinced though, but it was okay. So I had set up a Mistral OCR account. All the keys, the credentials, and other stuff. So you need to make a HTTP call to literally get the URL and all that stuff. Once you get the URL, you post the document. And then the output of this is a text file that gets passed to the AI, OpenAI. So one learning here is I try to use the RAG-based approach. I tried Pinecone vectors, I tried Superbase and all that stuff. But what I found is it takes enormous amount of time. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if I'm doing right or wrong. Then after a little bit of digging, I kind of gave the context directly in the prompt. So this helps really to speed up the things. It looks for cached kind of chunks based on the prompts, and it is able to use less token. So here's the prompt that was actually built for the contracts. And based on this prompt, I'm saying like, what are my guardrails? Like, what exactly you need to provide in terms of the output, and very clear instruction in terms of the hallucination, right? The temperature, like, I'm saying like, okay, I'm kind of giving a little bit leeway, but like, maintaining this temperature experimented, like, okay, how is the output based on certain those parameters? So I kind of settled on this, ensuring that, okay, it gives me at least a decent output. So after working through this, the output is in a JSON format. So I need to convert this into an HTML because, if you want to input that into a Gmail, so again, there's a conversion. So of course, I did something on my own. I took some help from, ChatGPT is my mentor actually. ChatGPT literally helped me with so many things. So here's a code that converts. I don't want to go into the details. And then finally, there's an email that gets sent out to the attorney saying that here's the initial insights into those reports. And then I don't know why there's another flow not shown up here, but after that, you have to mark the document as read so that you don't really read again the same documents. So that is the workflow for the contracts. Similarly, for inspection reports, I didn't go for any fancy tool here. This did a pretty decent job, like extracting from the PDF. And then constructing the prompt is very, very key here. So obviously, I had to experiment a lot of things here. And after going through a lot of iterations, I was able to get like a good, decent output from the prompt. So based on what I was looking for. And then the similar approach, like, once your output is there, it goes and it provides your, JSON to HTML and then eventually the email. Same thing for this report. The radon also, it's a very simple prompt and then, eventually the output. So one thing what is pending is I want to bring this whole thing into an Airtable and then build a wrapper with like a chat or something so that now you can search by clients, you can search by address and all that stuff and ask specific questions. That is a pending. I couldn't really find time to do that, but that's a goal. And bring a whole UI and all that stuff, wrap this around and make sure everything is working. So while we were actually discussing, it executed actually one contract here. As you can see this tick mark, it was polling for an email, which I just sent, which I'm going to show you here. If you can see my email here, guys, can you all see my email?
Yeah.
So here's a contract which I just sent before the presentation. It pulled for that and it looked all for the key information. And I hope it sent me the address here. Yeah, here. So this is the output that got extracted from the contracts. And it gives me all the key terms like the buyer, when was the contract signed, what is the age of the property, when is the balance payment due, what is the purchase price, and also remember there's also a deposit that you need to make like within 3 days of the signed contract. And what is the additional deposit terms? Like it should be 10 days after your review. What is your mortgage commitment date? And any other association fees that you need to be aware of. And who's responsible for the inspections, like buyer side versus seller side. And it does a contract analysis, like, okay, who is it actually favoring? In this case, based on the analysis, which I completely agree, it favored the seller. And I had to eventually back out. That's a different story. The concern was as is, right? There's a lot of risk around high repair, less disclosure around the property. As is like you're masking a lot of issues. So based on that, it summarizes the whole thing and it provides the what is your purchase risk level on a scale of 10. So here my risk level is almost 7 to 8, which means definitely not a deal worth taking. So with this information, the lawyers are now better equipped and they can go back to their clients and say like, okay, what do they actually need to do with this contract? So that's pretty much what it does. Um, I don't know, Mahesh, if we have like 2 minutes, I want to show you the inspection part, or if you
Please,
want to.
please.
So what I do is initially I just try to create another email here. Okay, let me, since this will take time to poll and all that stuff, I'm going to manually extract this and show you guys. Okay, I hope once I execute this, I hope it will just go through it. Let's see. See, it's going through the path. It's running here. It's going through the entire contract analysis now. And once it's gone through evaluating all the key terms and everything, it's just going to pass this output to the HTML conversion. And then finally it goes through to the Gmail and it gets notified. So that's like almost 21 pages of document that gets processed. Okay, so that whole node got executed successfully. Hopefully my output is okay. Let's see that. Okay, so it marked this inspection as read now, so it's not going to pick this up. Even if I run next time, it's not going to process this. And this is my inspection report, right? So it tells me exactly like when the inspection happened, like, address, the company, what was actually tested for the inspection, the age of the house and all that. And it goes through each of the criteria, like, okay, if it is a roofing, what is the roofing? What was inspected for roofing? How old is the roofing? And like pretty much what is the average age of this roofing? Like, so obviously if I'm buying in 2021, it's already 16 years done. So I may be having 4 years. That means that's an expense for me. So what are the safety concerns about the roofs? Any repairs that I must be concerned? Same thing with the exterior. And what it really found me was this was pretty good for me, like in terms of the foundation. So it found something very interesting. So it goes through all those key things like, all this plumbing, kitchen, whatever that stuff. And then after looking at all these things, look at this foundation. So there's a thin horizontal crack. This is something which I was really looking that this would catch. And it did, in fact, identify that as a risk. And then I'm coming here and saying, like, okay, what is my summary end of the day? There is a mold here in the basement or maybe in the attic. This foundation was a key deal breaker. So obviously, this is something I should be very concerned about. And then looking at the maintenance, there's some very decent work left in this house. So, and then finally, my risk assessment summary, what happens here and what is my risk rating. So it kind of gives me initial insight. I think we can do a lot more, improvements, but that's pretty much what I got to share. And same thing, the radon report also, it kind of tells you the levels and all the things. That's pretty much from my end. Thank you, guys.
This was amazing, Krish. Thank you so much.
It is
Really, really
hard for me to
appreciate.
cry, right? Otherwise, I would have cried. So, Chris, no, this is like, I think beyond, I think three things I really love. One is, and both you and Claudia, I think so far, like you are going product first, you're figuring out what needs to be built. You are not just going building for the sake of building. Both of you have very very much clarity on who can use it and how. And then as you have demonstrated, you went eval first. You looked at like, okay, building is easy, but evaluations is hard. And then you tied it up with that. Just a lot of things for me to just learn from you at this point. So thanks a lot, Chris.